The 2023 Formula One season may mark a significant turning point for Aston Martin. The supporters in green have a lot to be excited about, and they should be. The Silverstone team is in great shape following an incredible Bahrain Grand Prix in which Alonso finished third. With the way things are going, 2023 is going to be a success, and Aston Martin are much more dangerous than people give them credit for, even after a great first race. More on that later. For now, let's see why Aston Martin had such a good race. The AMR 23 garnered a lot of attention when it was unveiled to the Formula One community in February. The new paint job was a significant departure from the one on the 2022 car, according to Dan Fallows, who is in charge of technical matters. However, the season's tests brought about a radical change. The Aston Martin was among the fastest vehicles at the braking zones of Bahrain International Circuit, according to all available research. Faster even than Red Bull. The top drivers held the car in high regard, but Alonso didn't have any comments about what he could accomplish at the beginning of the season. In Bahrain, he claimed that he didn't believe the car would be able to compete for first place. However, Aston Martin performed even better than anticipated by the end of the first weekend. Alonso has long been regarded as one of the best Formula One drivers. Seven-time world champion Lewis Hamilton once referred to Fernando Alonso as the most challenging racer he had ever encountered. Although Stroll isn't as good as Alonso, this is common. The Canadian driver, 24, has 3 podium finishes to date in his career, but he has his directors who frequently bring up the fact that his father, Lawrence Stroll, owns the team. On the other hand, it was obvious to everyone that Lance Stroll wanted to drive at a high level in Bahrain. Aston Martin team principal Mike Crack wants his team to remain grounded despite the promising start. Crack claimed that the team didn't have complete faith in their skills prior to the race. Although the team's best race result since 2020 season was provided by Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll, Crack insisted that it was really important to perform well and make the most of the car's capabilities. The group finished with 2 points for the 7th time since becoming Aston Martin 2 years ago. The team's strategy, according to Crack, was really well carried out. In an interview with Racing 365, the Aston Martin technical director Dan Fallows stated that the 2023 car presents a chance for additional development as it seeks to advance in the standings. He detailed the aggressive approach that was undertaken in order to make the AMR 23. It is definitely an evolution of last year's car, but a sort of aggressive evolution of it, Fallows explained. There are reasonable limitations to these rules, but we were able to find some fairly substantial gains in a lot of areas, not only aerodynamics, but also mechanical as well, compared to the last car. Fallows thinks that it was logical for Aston Martin to continue with the development path of their 2022 car, the AMR 22. Obviously, having a car developed around 2 different concepts is never going to give you the best platform, he continued. Being able to design a car from scratch to be able to do everything with following one individual concept was a great benefit, I think. Also, there was a lot of momentum from last year because we made a quite significant amount of progress in the second half of the season, so it has been carrying that on. Where we are now, I don't know, but I think we have seen that it is definitely a big step from where we were last year, and that's the main thing we're aiming for, really. When asked about the main areas of improvement for the 2022 car, Fallows explained that they were particularly keep on the car being consistent and reliable, but also from the point of view of the driver being able to extract fuel properly, change tires properly, so that the driver can still extract good lap times from it. Fallows ended with an optimistic note for the possibility of more to come from Aston Martin's car. Aston Martin's success was somewhat expected, but it came about much more quickly than anyone anticipated. A lot has changed in the last few years, and good people have been appointed to important positions. Despite the fact that the new factory is still being built, that is now beginning to come together. It does make use of Mercedes components that are permitted by the rules, such as the driveline, the rear suspension, and the engine, but it has done a good job with them, especially when compared to the factory team. Simply observe how Alonso was able to attack when neither Mercedes drivers were able to. This implies that the car driven by Alonso has more downforce. The theory was that British racing green cars could, in theory, defeat Alpine and McLaren and reclaim their position as the best of the rest, which they had held for a number of seasons. Although Aston Martin's leaders made an effort to downplay expectations, testing revealed that the team was improving under the technical guidance of former Red Bull Aero chief Dan Fallows. After the music stopped, it appeared that the AMR23 had not only narrowed but also passed the distance between the middle of the pack in the top 3. Aston Martin has continued to improve at the same rate it did the previous season, when it went from having the 9th fastest car for being in contention for 6th place amongst constructors. The car is fast, produces a lot of downforce, and is simple to steer, all of which are essential for success. Over the radio, Alonso exclaimed, "This is a great car to drive," as he sped to 3rd place in Bahrain. The question is how to get better now that placing on the podium has been accomplished. Aston Martin's remarkable and almost unheard of turnaround from last season suggests they are prepared to compete with the sport's so-called Big Three of Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes, according to Stroll, who set out an ambitious 5-year plan to make them world champions. They spent the money to hire some of the top technical talent in the sport, including Dan Fallows, who played a major role in the development of last season's dominant Red Bull machine, and former Mercedes aerodynamic chief Eric Baldwin, doubling their headcount from 400 to 800 employees. They become a force to be reckoned with when Alonso, one of the best drivers ever, takes the wheel. Mercedes provides Aston Martin with their gearbox, rear suspension, engine, and wind tunnel. But the Silverstone team will still move into a brand new cutting-edge factory and have access to their own wind tunnel, which will undoubtedly hasten their ascent to the top of Formula One. The team may be able to disprove Russell's prediction of a Red Bull clean sweep if the AMR23 is amenable to a clear and defined upgrade path. Making the magic happen is the responsibility of the engineers. Aston Martin was forced to start the previous season with a car that was excruciatingly slow and challenging to drive. They decided to create an entirely new model for 2023 at the beginning of last year. Since then, they have discovered nearly 2 seconds of track time, which is unheard of in contemporary Formula One. This put them far in the front of the rest of the pack on the Sakir track. Fernando Alonso outpaced both Mercedes drivers by posting the fastest time in both practice and qualifying. His teammate Lance Stroll, who drove despite having a broke wrist, came in 8th. The Spaniard was unstoppable in the race on Sunday, coming from 7th to finish 3rd in what might have been the 2nd fastest vehicle after the Red Bulls. Their midfield rivals, McLaren and Alpine, who have been attempting to make a similar step up for much longer and with much more money, will find it painful to watch their success, but Mercedes will find it even more painful. The team principal, Mike Crack, has overseen a remarkable transformation, and it is likely that Aston Martin will improve even more this year, with the opening of the new factory and wind tunnel at Silverstone. With 23 points already earned and a podium finish, it is clear how well coordinated Alonso, Stroll, and the rest of the green-clad awesome Martin team are. Alonso appears to have finally struck it rich with his career choices after battling for years with McLaren and Alpine, and most importantly, he still has it. If Alonso gets lucky and the wind blows in the right direction, there is still a good chance that he grabs at least one win this year. It's highly unlikely that he will retire soon, given how well he performed in Bahrain. Following this race, it will be very interesting to watch Aston Martin this season. They undoubtedly have a skilled and experienced driver, and from the looks of things, they also have a very decent car. Let us know your thoughts and opinions about Aston Martin. Do you think they will be able to compete next season? Like and subscribe, and see you next time.